Hello, everybody. That was really loud, but we're back. Week 2 was great, despite the fact that there weren't a whole lot of huge profile games. It still turned out to be an amazing week of college football. A&M looks like it's on its way back, at least way more back than Texas is. The streak, the famous streak in Kentucky, has come to a close, and I cannot wait to break that game down. What else happened? Oh, the dogs. The dogs are elite. They look amazing.
Herm Edwards showing he's
Herm Edwards.
maybe the best hire of the offseason.
Maybe. Even though he had some website I read before the season gave him gave that hire a grade of an F. Horrible rating before the season, but
2-0.
we are high on Herm Edwards on this podcast. Lastly, UCLA tried to play football with Oklahoma. It didn't work out so great. Did I mention Stanford? I don't think I mentioned Stanford. Stanford dominated USC, and Bryce Love looked like a Heisman quality running back. We have great games coming up in week 3. Just to rattle them off quickly: Oklahoma, Iowa State, Notre Dame, Vandy, Boise State, Oklahoma State, LSU, Auburn, Ohio State, TCU, USC, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss. Did I miss any?
No, I think you did well.
I almost got them all without stuttering at least once.
I think you did pretty well. But no, they say the first is the worst, the second is the best, and the third is the one with the treasure chest. So we're on to week 3. We're on the week with the treasure chest.
Did you just make that up?
Let's open it up.
Well, I don't think I can think of a better way to segue in. So without further ado, let's open the treasure chest, everybody. Here we go. We are going to start with the most important game of the weekend, other than the Georgia game, because the Georgia game is the most important game every weekend. The streak is over, everybody. Hallelujah. Praise Mark Stoops and everybody in that Kentucky staff. The 31 years has come to a close. We can close the chapter on this horrible history in Kentucky football. Kentucky beat Florida this weekend, and I am really, really stoked about it.
And you know what? 31 more in a row, and Kentucky will be right back.
Tied up.
It'll
be even. Actually, it probably won't be, but it'll be close to even. It'll be closer to even. Kentucky, I didn't get to watch too much of the game, unfortunately, because it was later in the night and I was already exhausted. But I did watch the fourth quarter, and I have talked to people who are Florida fans about this game to kind of get a feel for how the sentiment is about down there in, what do they call it? The swamp. Thank you. I prefer to not use that word, but mainly people are feeling like Felipe Franks is marginally better. I'm not really sure. I think Kentucky, the game was kind of sloppy, especially the finish. They had this weird, the fumble. You saw the fumble, right? The fumble that we thought was a pass and then wasn't a pass, and ultimately Felipe Franks fumbled the ball and then it was pushed forward by his hand as he was getting tackled by a defensive end. Ultimately, Kentucky, wins the game by 11. They paint Mark Stoops with a Gatorade bath, and everybody up there in the Blue Ridge Mountains is freaking out. And I was adamant that last year was the year the streak would end. I'm still mad that I was wrong.
Yeah, if they just remembered to cover Florida's receivers.
And I said it this year, and you laughed.
I didn't think this year was the year, but I was wrong. But this is a game that gets attention, not because it's a good game or a meaningful game, but it's just because of the streak. Every year, people will, if it's a close game, people will tune into it, not because it has meaning, but just because the streak. But going right into College Game Day, I had a little side segment I wanted to touch on, and it's these College Game Day signs. And they've gone from being, somewhat clever from when we were growing up to now they're just weird. There's always just like a meme or like really weird insults about, not like mean insults, just weird insults. Like, for example, Sammy Watkins smokes mids.
I was going to say that's my favorite game day sign of all time is Sammy Watkins smokes mids.
Urban Meyer cites Wikipedia. Lane Kiffin shops at Baby Gap. And Josh Rosen isn't circumcised.
Jimbo Fisher drops tilted.
Yeah, and it's just the signs have gotten weirder and weirder, and they're all the same type. There was one I saw.
Maybe it's the same people.
I don't know who it is. I mean, it's just the idea catches fire, and it's just kind of it's different variations of the same thing. There was one, it was just, I saw online when I was researching this, it was just this Asian dude holding a sign that just said, "I'm Asian."
Maybe this is a sign that you're getting older and you don't understand the younger generation.
No, I mean, I understand it. I think that's hilarious. But the signs used to be a lot of like ESPN, what's it called? Like anagrams.
Yeah.
Or maybe something else, like an acrostic poem with
anagrams,
ESPN. And now, like, someone ruined that. They just did penis, 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 penis using the ESP and N. But that's just a side note about College Game Day.
Let's actually talk a little bit about football. And we'll start with the Dogs because I'm on cloud 9 after that absolute shellacking we put on in Columbia. And I'll start by saying a couple of things I noticed about the game because I want to be objective about the Bulldogs despite the fact that I love them with the deepest part of my heart. The Dogs are interesting to watch for when it comes to elite level teams. And I was talking to you a little bit about this before the show. When you watch Georgia, they don't have that guy that jumps off the page yet. You watch the games. For perfect example, Georgia had 8 different receivers catch the football on Saturday for 204 yards, I think. That's spreading the ball around a lot. Now, I think it's starting to form into our best wide receivers, Mecole Hardman. I think that's pretty much established, but the point I'm trying to make here is when you watch Georgia, you don't see one elite player carrying a team. You see a band of top-level players. I don't want to just throw around the word elite everywhere, but top-level players being utilized in an extremely efficient offense. Extremely efficient offense. People talk about how we lost players on defense, but Georgia has an elite offense as an offensive unit. And I think that they can compete with any offense in the country when it comes to their ability to score points because they utilize every athlete in how they should be utilized.
No, I agree with you. And it was awesome to see, it was 20-10 at the half, and the offense didn't look amazing in the first half. They came down and scored early, and they moved the ball a little bit towards the end of the second quarter. But they came out at halftime, got the ball, scored a touchdown, 3 and out, scored a touchdown, 3 and out, scored a touchdown, and just like that, 21 straight points. They just imposed
game was
their
over
will.
after that third touchdown in the second half.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're up 31 points. I mean, game over, and it was like they didn't even. It was almost like they didn't even break a sweat.
It did feel very easy. I mean, all started with DeAndre Baker's almost pick 6.
His pick
return for
5.5
50 yards. Yeah. Was Taylor picks it up.
Taylor.
Jawan Taylor picks it up for a touchdown. But the Dogs, everyone, whether you like it or not, and I love it personally, the Dogs are here to stay, and they are not going anywhere. And quite frankly, under Kirby Smart, trap games are gone for the most part because I'm tired of this anxiety that we live with as Georgia fans, that we are scarred from the Mark Richt era, that we go into games worried because I'm losing the worrying because we go into these games on the road in Columbia, which is an extremely hard place to play, and we dominate on it every facet of the game. Special teams, offense, and defense just dominated up and down the field.
Speak for yourself. I don't think I'll ever stop worrying before games, but it is
I
nice.
know I won't, but I want to.
It's nice to, even in this South Carolina game, after the first quarter, it wasn't even close to over. It was maybe 14-7.
We started out 14-0, and then they scored on the drive after we scored a touchdown.
14-7. Yeah, it was 14-7. It wasn't over, but I wasn't worried because I'd gotten a feel for the game, and I could see that Georgia was going to win that game.
Well, we were always in control of the game. It was never really in question as to when South Carolina, is South Carolina going to get back into this football game? No, not really. They had one good drive where we had a couple of defensive busts, and they ended up scoring on a trick play on an end-around pass to Jake Bentley. Other than that, they didn't get in the end zone until garbage time, and that we don't have to go down. We aren't going to beat this dead horse, but Georgia proved a lot to people who were worried about whether or not Georgia could replace players this year.
One thing that you were saying to me this weekend that I thought was interesting was that despite this game, South Carolina is still Georgia's biggest threat to take the East. And I looked into it, and you're absolutely correct because Georgia still plays Auburn and LSU from the West. And if they lose both of those, which is possible, then South Carolina, them from the West, they have Texas A&M, who is a winnable game for them, and Missouri. who's a winnable
Not
game.
Missouri, Ole Miss.
Mississippi. Sorry, I saw that
Yeah,
M
it's
and the
fine.
I. And so if South Carolina can win the rest of their SEC games, which the East is weak, they play everybody from the East, and
They're better than every other team in the East, I think.
Yeah, they theoretically could win all the games in the East, and then if they take care of Ole Miss and Texas A&M, then all of a sudden they're sitting there with one loss, and Georgia's sitting there with 1-2 Auburn and LSU. And it doesn't matter if South Carolina gets walloped by Clemson at the end of the year. That's a non-conference game. So I'm with you. I don't think all is lost for South Carolina at this point.
All is definitely, and I still maintain that South Carolina, I might not be preaching on the soapbox as much that they're the third best team in the SEC with LSU, A&M, and Auburn really showing out, but South Carolina is still a team to be reckoned with. They are still better than Missouri. They're still better than Tennessee, Kentucky, Vandy, and Florida, quite frankly. And I don't think they're going to lose an SEC East game, and I do think they're going to lose to Texas A&M. But they are Georgia's number one threat to not going to the SEC championship other than Georgia itself. If Georgia does what it's supposed to do, they will be in the SEC championship, more than likely playing Alabama. We can jump. That's actually a good segue. Let's jump over to the West. Bama played garbage game, won big.
The kicker missed 2 extra points.
Actually could be something huge. For some reason, Alabama can't recruit a kicker. That's kind of hard to say. Tell me a little bit about A&M. What did you think of the A&M Clemson game? Because I have pretty strong opinions about it personally.
So obviously, Clemson pulled off the win. I was more impressed, I think most people were. I was more impressed with A&M than I was unimpressed with Clemson. People are saying, I've heard people say, that was a weak performance from Clemson. I don't think so. I think A&M has a lot of good athletes. They look well coached, well put together. Their receivers were unbelievable. That dude with the blonde dreads made some ridiculous catches. And Clemson is lucky to have escaped from College Station with a win.
Oh yeah,
because
they should be happy with it.
It could have gone either way there at the end, and it worked out for Clemson. But I'm nervous for A&M next year. I don't think they're going to quite put it together this year. I think they have the potential to beat an Alabama or an LSU or an Auburn.
But I would say that I would completely disagree with the notion that Clemson looked bad. And that's what you were saying. So I'm agreeing with you by disagreeing with other people. But I agree. The one thing that I want to add to that is I don't know really why we have a quarterback controversy in Clemson. And I don't have the stats in front of me on Kelly Bryant, but Kelly Bryant played a great game against A&M. I think he had I don't want to throw out the numbers and not know them exactly, but I don't know how productive it is to be playing Trevor Lawrence too much right now, because Kelly Bryant can win you a national title at Clemson. And I think that you would be best from a Clemson perspective. If I was a Clemson fan, I would want Kelly Bryant developed as much as possible and prepared for those big games, because let me tell you, there's very few places in college football to play that are bigger stages than College Station at night. And that's good experience for Kelly Bryant to get. And he needs to be able to take that game, take control of it, and win that football game. And if I'm Clemson, I'm starting to think Kelly Bryant's our guy. Trevor Lawrence, you're going to sit for a year. You're great. You're talented. You can really spin the football. But I think he needs to sit and be done.
By that same logic, I disagree, because I agree with you that it's a giant stage to play at night in College Station for a hyped up game. College game days there. But I think they realize that Trevor Lawrence is the more talented quarterback, and that to be able to get him experience in that environment is very important for the future of their program. And while right now this is still Kelly Bryant's team, I think everything's pointing towards it becoming Trevor Lawrence's team. And I think he's just a stronger raw talent, and he's not quite ready to go yet.
I think sometimes in college football especially, we get wrapped up in the developed players over the now, and Clemson is capable of winning now with Kelly Bryant. And Trevor Lawrence will develop just fine, but when you're up 2 points against A&M, you need Kelly Bryant in the game. That ain't the time to develop your backup quarterback. When you're up at 2 points on the road at Texas A&M. But that's a debate for another time, because people have had that debate over and over whether or not Trevor Lawrence needs to play. And I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say Kelly Bryant's your guy. And as a non-Clemson fan, that's just the way I feel about it. But Anything else in the West that we want to talk about before we move on?
I just wanted to
and
say
Auburn
about
won
that
easily.
game. There was a good a game day sign that I liked. I know I was talking crap about game day signs earlier. There was one that said Kobe Bryant is still the best passer named K Bryant from the A&M fan. Good sign.
That is a good sign. That's a clever sign. That's like the
clever
old
sign.
days.
Not, Kelly Bryant likes Nickelback. Like, that's a modern sign.
What if Kelly Bryant does like Nickelback?
Nickelback gets a bad rap. Like,
Or do they get a bad rap?
they're not my favorite band, but they're not, like, laughably bad.
They're not laughably bad. They're just
yeah.
they're like
Anyone who
they're painfully catchy.
I
They're
think
kind of like the
that should be their
they're kind of like the Florida Georgia line of what you would call alternative rock or like soft rock or something. I don't know. So UCLA, Oklahoma. Kyler Murray is a beast. UCLA was kind of in it for the first quarter. I know we flipped it on because we were curious, but is there really anything you want to throw on this game other than the fact that they ended up winning by like 30 points, didn't they?
Yeah, it wasn't close.
Kyler Murray's just, he's incredible. That kid can play.
I will say Chip Kelly, though, 0-2.
See, it's getting warm.
Willie Taggart, 1-1. Lucky to be 1-1.
Lucky to be 1-1.
Herm Edwards,
I still believe in
2-0
Willie.
with a top 25 win.
I'm not tweeting hashtag Free Willie yet.
You know what?
You're preparing it.
You talked about it earlier about people who were anti-Herm Edwards hire who didn't understand it. And you know what? We were those people. I will admit it. I think we were a tad hermophobic. But it's turned out, the 2 games in, he is the only new coach that's undefeated with a top 25 win. Mullen is already 1-1, and they played Kentucky. You look at Scott Frost, 0-1 at Nebraska. I mean, he is at this point. No, their first game got canceled.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean, Herm.
Do it to him, Herm. Prove the haters wrong.
I'm a Herm guy now.
You're not a hermophobe.
No, I'm not a
that.
hermophobe.
I'm going to wrap up Stanford USC because I actually stayed up and watched it. And, I've been hyping up Bryce Love, and I said he had to show up. I said he needed $150 and a touchdown. Well, he almost got there. He got 136 and a touchdown, 6 yards per carry, 59-yard run. He had it all in this game, and Stanford had it all in this game. 17-3, looked great. Looked like they can compete with Washington for the the Pac-12. That's all I had for last week's games. Or what you got?
I want you to just real quick, off the top of your head, give me your top 5 power rankings of the Florida teams
All time?
right now.
Of
teams in the
Florida.
state of Florida.
I thought you were
Yes.
saying Florida teams of all time.
In
I was
the
like
state of Florida.
2006. Okay. Teams in the state of Florida, Power 5.
No, not
Or the top 5.
top 5.
Florida teams.
Yeah.
Do they have to be Power 5?
No.
Okay. Number 1, Miami.
Ooh.
Number 2, UCF. 3, Florida. 4, Florida State. 5, Florida Atlantic.
Wait, okay, what about if you include USF? Where do you put them?
I put them at 5.
Really? See,
They haven't proven it to me yet. They got a guy who can run 100 miles an hour, but other than that, I haven't seen anything out of USF.
National champs.
You
UCF,
have more time to think
number
about
1.
this, though. That's not fair.
USF
Don't you
2.
do? I'm gonna throw my pin at your head.
Miami 3, Florida 4, Florida State 5.
Who'd you have it to?
USF. Just beat Georgia Tech this week. Great season last year.
Miami scored 77 points last week.
I don't know. It was a toss-up there at the 2 and 3 spot with USF and Miami. But I just
USF
wanted
is
to
not
say,
better than Miami right now.
You take 3 years ago, the power rankings, and it's like the exact opposite. You have Florida State, then Florida, then Miami, then UCF. I mean, now it's
I'm not going to argue with
reverse.
UCF. I didn't want to put them at number 1 because I still hate them, but I'm going to argue with you at number 2. I don't think USF has proven it yet. They beat Georgia Tech, for God's sake.
It's a Power 5 team. At home, though. Georgia Tech
was at
came to
home.
USF.
Okay. Now that we've had enough bantering about UCF. Moving on to week 3. Where do you really want to start? Because I got a whole lot of stuff on here. We don't necessarily have to break them all down individually.
Let's start with the one that I'm most excited about, LSU Auburn.
That's a perfect place to start. Take it away.
Well, the boys are going to go in there, and those boys are going to be ready to
We
fight.
really need to work on that.
Go Tigers.
We need to get you like in speech therapy about how to make your voice sound scratchy.
I thought that was pretty good.
It's good. It's better than I can do. It's you've made your.
I'll do Gus Malzahn too.
You got to go deep and scratchier. You got to pretend you have like a horrible cold.
Our boys are going out into the plains at Auburn, and we're ready. We're ready for these guys. They got a lot of good players, but we're gonna go out there. We're ready to fight. Go Tigers.
That was much better. That was much better.
That honestly, that felt good. I was
right.
Coach O in that moment.
You
do Gus.
See, what everybody doesn't realize is he had to scrunch his neck really far down to like make himself look like he doesn't have a neck. I can't do Gus.
I had to like retract my trachea down like 2 or 3 inches.
I'm not sure that's possible. All right. LSU Auburn.
LSU, you know what? I think Auburn's going to win. If I'm thinking with my brain, I think Auburn's going to win. But if I'm thinking with my heart, I really want LSU to win because Coach O is a gem, and it would be amazing to have Georgia go into LSU in 4 weeks and be, a top 10 matchup. Because
top 5.
Probably top 5 because that would give LSU 2 top 15 wins at that point.
2 top 10 wins.
Yeah, you're correct.
Only team in the country with 2 top 10 wins at that point.
I think LSU could do it. Again, like we talked about after week 1, we learned more about how Miami isn't for real than necessarily how LSU is for real. But this is a good opportunity for them to go prove themselves. The thing is, Auburn at home in a big game, they do well. And I could see it turning into somewhat of a blowout for Auburn. But I could also see it going LSU. My brain tells me Auburn. My heart tells me LSU. But I'm excited to watch either way.
I agree with you. If I'm picking with my heart, I want LSU to win because we're going to be there. We're going to watch Georgia and LSU.
Can win.
They can.
They
absolutely can. But I think I don't want to say I think Auburn's going to win, but I'm going to make my official pick and I'm going to say Auburn's going to win. But I don't want to write off LSU. There's a couple good reasons why.
This is, before you continue, this is the exact type of pick where Desmond picks Auburn, the guest picker picks Auburn, Corso picks Auburn, and Herb Street feels like he doesn't want all 4 to be Auburn, so he'll pick LSU. Calling it right now.
Well, it's not game day, so he can pick. That's right. So the reason I think Auburn's going to win is for a couple reasons. The home team's won the last 5 meetings in this game. Game's obviously being played at Auburn, so edge Auburn. LSU looked pretty rough last week. Despite the fact they won 33-0, they only got 2 first downs in the entire second half. I think Joe Burrow struggled a little bit last week after having a pretty good game against Miami. So, I don't know. I think Auburn right now looks all around better on defense, and if their offense shows up, I think Auburn's going to take it home.
Let's move to
you're before we leave, you're officially picking Auburn to win the game.
I think Auburn's going to win the game. I wouldn't be shocked to see LSU win it, but I think Auburn's going to win it. My main prediction, though, which I'm very confident in, Desmond's picking Auburn, guest picker's picking Auburn, Corso's picking Auburn, and Herb Street's picking LSU.
All right, I'm gonna write that down just to make sure I remember. You'll remember it for sure. Ohio State TCU.
Game day.
That's the one that Herb Street can't pick.
All right, so I actually like TCU in this game.
To win it?
I like TCU to win it. At TCU,
I would
without
love
Urban
for
Meyer.
TCU to win it.
And you know what? I've no real reason other than my gut. But, Ohio State gets so much credit. They get so much love for everything. People forget they lost by 31 to Iowa last year. They got killed by Oklahoma last year, who's a Big 12 team. They can be very inconsistent at times, and I know everybody's very high on Dwayne Haskins and what's their running back's name?
Zeke Elliott.
No, something. Their running back supposed to be really good. J.K. Dobbins or something.
Okay.
Actually, that is what it is. J.K. Dobbins, and they haven't proven anything to me. And maybe they'll do it this week, but they're one of those teams that gets hype every single year, and it's undeserved. And TCU's going to prove that Ohio State's unworthy of the hype. But then TCU's going to get all the hype that they don't deserve because Ohio State's not that good.
Then Oklahoma's going to crush them, so that won't matter.
Agreed. Yes. So I'm picking TCU in this game. And I know that's not the popular pick.
So I agree with everything you just said. I think Ohio State is way overhyped. I agree with that whole storyline. But I think Ohio State's going to start out 3-0 without Urban Meyer. I don't think they're going to drop a game. I don't think TCU is going to threaten them too much. I would love to see it. I hope you're right. I really hope you're right because I hate Ohio State. But I think Ohio State wins this game. I don't know their schedule off the top of my head, but with Michigan looking down, Penn State struggling at App State, the Big Ten is low-hanging fruit right now for Ohio State despite all the controversy that's going on. I think they're going to handle TCU just fine, and honestly, they'll probably handle the Big 10 just fine. I don't have too much more to add on it specifically, but I really, with my heart, want TCU to win this game, and I'll be watching for sure. Well, I won't be watching. I'll be at the Georgia game, but I'll be following along closely and really hoping TCU can pull it out.
All right, let's talk Bama Ole Miss. Bama at Ole Miss. And this is one of those games, I'm never not going to pick Alabama to win a game. On the record, I'm not going to not pick Alabama. But this has, as you mentioned for Georgia, that we don't have to worry about trap games anymore. I think this is a trap game for Alabama. And I'm not picking Ole Miss, but Jordan Teamo.
You love this guy. You Teamo this guy.
I'm Jordan Teamo. Dude is great, and he's very well protected with his O-line. They're going to score some points, even against Bama's defense, and it seems like Ole Miss is the only team that really can consistently beat Alabama.
Yeah,
it's
that's
at
right.
Ole Miss.
That's absolutely right.
Going to be hyped up.
You say it's there?
It's at Ole Miss, yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the third quarter come, and it's, 31-28 or something, and we move into the fourth quarter. I think Bama wins. I think Bama has the potential to blow them out, but Ole Miss is not an easy win for them.
Again, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I have been watching Alabama play this year, and the scariest thing about it is, Bama's known for its defenses. Its defenses are always amazing. They're always efficient. They're no mistake football. The problem is their offense is no mistake football now. They have been a well-oiled offensive machine the last 2 weeks, and that's what's terrifying is Alabama has always been known for you're not going to score points on them. Hopefully you can hold them to a couple of touchdowns and keep yourself in it, but now it's just like every single facet of the game they're coming at people 100 miles an hour.
Well, Bama's biggest weakness is that they're playing in the SEC West, where they have teams like Ole Miss who have a chance against them, Mississippi State who has a chance against them, and then teams that have real chances against them like LSU and Texas A&M, and then a team that has a real chance against them like Auburn. They have a lot of games this year against a strong SEC West.
So going off of that is exactly why I don't think Ole Miss will win this game, but I think Ole Miss is a key cog in the Alabama getting a loss machine. Because this is honestly Alabama's schedule is kind of like a heavyweight fight. They're not going to lose on the first punch. They're not going to go down after they get hit in the face one time. But when you play Ole Miss, then you turn around and you play Missouri and you got to deal with Drew Lock, and then you got to play Tennessee, who's got athletes. They're not going to even come close in that game. Don't mistake what I'm saying.
Whatever the point spread is, I got Alabama minus it.
Yeah, that's going to be a rout. But the point is they still have to play an SEC team at that high level, and then it gets dicey. Then you play Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Citadel, and then Auburn in 4 games. And you got LSU in there in the mix too, I haven't said. So this is literally just punching bag after punching bag for about 6 weeks for Alabama. They're already thin on defense. This team will get banged up during that stretch. And that's where you're going to see them drop a game. They're not going to drop a game right now to Ole Miss because they're still healthy, they're still fresh. I want to know how they're going to respond when you get into like week 8, 9. You're starting to move into Auburn. You got guys banged up. They already lost a linebacker for the whole year before the season started. That's when I think you're going to get Bama. I think Bama loses a game this year. I don't know where, but they're going to drop one because of that schedule and LSU and A&M coming up into the fold.
I think it's Mississippi State. This one or Mississippi State. Okay. And I don't think it's because Mississippi State's that good. I do think Mississippi State is very good, but I think that's one of the ones that they're not looking at as highly as they are with LSU or Auburn.
That's actually a really good take too, because you got to think that it's wedged right there in the middle, the thick of things, because Alabama doesn't fall asleep on LSU. Doesn't matter what LSU is when it comes to that game's always big.
That they give a shout out to in their Dixieland Delight. By the way, when I was in Tuscaloosa, you know how we say F Florida, they go F Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. They're effing 3 teams.
They're getting the whole SEC there.
Yeah, like they just get rid of the song and just chant all the SEC teams.
I'm sure the Alabama fans would love to adopt that idea behind the song. Another SEC team we haven't talked about is Vandy. Can Vandy do it against Notre Dame?
No.
Oh, dang. Yeah, you're right, but still, come on, Vandy.
Anchor down.
They're not going to do it.
I don't think so. Notre Dame looked weak last week, but it could have just been a hangover. They had a giant, huge program win the week before against Michigan. They're not going to lose to Vanderbilt, unfortunately. As much as I would love to see it, they're not going to. Another quick one to talk about, USC Texas.
Okay. Bobby Boucher. I'll never give up on Bobby Boucher.
He's not even the starter, though.
I know, but I'm still not giving up on him. Would you give up on your kid if he wasn't a starter? Absolutely not. I'm not giving up on Bobby Boucher.
So are you claiming him as your son?
Yeah, sure. I'll take Bobby Boucher as my son.
Mrs. Boucher is very nice looking. So. No, actually, I think Texas is going to win this game. And I think they're going to win this game, and then some people are going to get baited right back in. And maybe Texas is back, but they're not back.
Please
USC is down.
Don't bite that, please.
They just lost. It was 24-3 to Stanford.
Who?
USC.
17-3.
17-3 to Stanford. Their offense is bad, and I think Texas isn't as bad as they looked against Maryland, but they're not good. They're gonna win the game, and a lot of people are gonna get swept back into the Texas movement when it shouldn't be a thing.
So I made my decision about this game at the end of your sentence. In the time you were speaking, I was both thinking USC and Texas were going to win this game. Ultimately, I'm choosing Texas. I'm taking the Longhorns. I think Tom Herman is going to take this game, and I think he sees it as his opportunity to rebound what's left of this season. Because there's still some things on the horizon that Texas can do to make this season a success. They got Oklahoma. You win that game, you find a way to win that game, and you salvage the season. It doesn't matter what you did. Then you could beat USC. I think Tom Herman takes this game, sees it as an opportunity. I think Texas wins a close one at home. Close enough to where I say like last drive. Whoever has the ball at the end of the game takes home this game. Texas by a late game field goal.
Well, in their next 4 games, they have USC, TCU, who's going to beat Ohio State this week, then Kansas State, and then Oklahoma. So tough 4 games. If they can win, they can go 2-2 in those. That's pretty good. They can go 3-1. That's a good look for Tom.
Maybe they're back.
They're still not back. But yeah,
you were conducting the train that was Texas is back up until when the season started.
Well, then I had to stop the train.
Yeah,
sometimes you have to know when to jump off. I reached my stop. I had to get off the train. I think a lot of people got off the train.
A lot of people got off the train.
Because it's just heading off a cliff.
Speaking of Oklahoma, I want to make it known that they shouldn't sleep on Iowa State this week. Iowa State is a giant killer, and they proved it last year. So just shouting out to the possibility that there might be an Oklahoma fan listening, highly doubtful, but don't sleep on Iowa State. I don't know if Jacob Park is still there, but if he is...
Kempt,
you're right. Kempt. Sounds like hemp.
Kempt.
And last game that we haven't talked about, Boise State, Oklahoma State. You got anything to add there? Top 25 matchup.
Yeah, this is my lock of the week.
Oh, okay. Wait, perfectly. You got to hold that thought then.
Okay. I'll let you go first then.
That moves us into our locks of the week because I'm going to update us. We're 1-1. We're both 1-1. What we got right last week, I got New Mexico plus 35 against Wisconsin.
I got Bama minus
36. Doesn't matter. They won 77-0.
That's Miami, but Bama won.
No, they won like 60-something-0 or something like that. Or was it 14?
Scored some points. Yeah,
they scored some garbage time points. Whatever. They won by more than 36.
Correct.
So we're 1-1 this year. Now we're going to move into our picks of the week, our locks of the week this week. I'm actually going to let you start because I interrupted you.
Well, also, you want to give me your opinion on Boise State, Oklahoma State first,
All right.
and then I'll give you which direction I'm taking the lock.
So being entirely honest, I don't know a ton about either of these two teams. I know Oklahoma State had a lot of talent last year, top 10. Mason Rudolph, where did he get drafted? Do you know off the top of your head? I don't know, so that's okay if you don't. So just because of that, it's being played in Oklahoma State. I'm going to take Oklahoma State in this game. No real reason other than the fact that I know they've got a lot of good players and it's being played there.
Yeah, that's my lock. The same direction of you. Oklahoma State -3.
Yeah,
I
like
think
that.
Boise's a fine team. They ended last year. They won their conference after they lost to Fresno State. They came back and they won the rematch to win their conference, and then they went on to beat Oregon in their bowl game. And I think because of that, people were high on them from the start. Their wins this year, relatively unimpressive. No names. Same with Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State has better players. I think Gundy's a fine coach. I think Oklahoma State's gonna roll. It's in Oklahoma State, and 3 is way too low of a point spread.
I agree. All right, so my lock of the week, coming back to the SEC. I'm actually a little nervous about my lock of the week because I feel like extreme weather might play into this, but I'm sticking with it.
Then it just gets canceled, and
Well, I'm worried that it won't get canceled and the weather will still be crazy because I'm taking South Carolina -13.5 over Marshall. And I don't remember. I think Marshall's 1-1 on the year, but it doesn't matter what they are. If they're 2-0, I'm still not going to affect my pick. The game's being played in Columbia. South Carolina just got embarrassed at home. They need any kind of momentum they can have. This is a revenge game. Not a revenge game, but just an anger game. They scored 60-plus points against East Carolina, what I would consider a very similar team to Marshall earlier in the year. I think South Carolina wins this game handily by 20 or more. Not worried about -13.5 unless the weather gets crazy and you just can't move the ball.
so you have a contingent pick then. How many inches of rain does it have to be that day for you to consider it crazy? Because I'll give you a second lock in case there's more than
All
like
right, so
5
I
inches
can't
of rain or
necessarily
something.
think I can't really think in my mind what 5 inches of rain looks like on the field, but I'm gonna call it contingent
Just
on the fact where if you are incapable of passing the football, like not it's hindering, that's fine, but I'm saying like they're running every single time because they can't pass. It's raining so much. I'm gonna say that lock is just missed because it's not really.
I'll tell you what. If it's a super super rainy day, and we can figure out the definition of that together, I'll just give you the under.
All right. Yeah, that's a good lock because I was going to say I might actually take the under in that game because I don't think they're going to actually play the game. You know what? Should I make a contingent lock that's separated from this game in case? You know, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make a contingent pick. I'm just going to say that I'm going to call it what it is. South Carolina -13.5. If it's super, super, super rainy, I'm taking the under. That's my lock. If it's super, super, super rainy, the under is a guarantee, but whatever. I don't know what the under is. We'll find it. But that's all I got this week. You got anything else to add? We're at pretty long already as is.
Oh, Wisconsin got a #1 vote in the AP poll.
They got one last week too.
Who the hell's doing that?
It's got to be like a Milwaukee Tribune, like not Milwaukee's best. What's their local?
I mean, Wisconsin looks good, but how?
The Milwaukee Post.
How in your right mind can you vote Wisconsin? I'm
Those
sorry.
kind of people shouldn't have a vote. I feel like we should. I wouldn't put Georgia #1. I'm as biased a Georgia fan as they come.
I would put Georgia #2.
I'd put Georgia #2. That's exactly where I'd put them. They look better than Clemson last weekend. Their resume is better than Clemson's right now. It should be Bama, Georgia, Clemson.
I would have Bama, Georgia, Auburn,
Oh,
Oklahoma, Clemson.
that's pretty okay. And it
it's
doesn't matter.
Nothing
right now,
against
but-
Clemson, but I think Oklahoma's been very impressive, and I think Auburn's been very impressive.
Yeah, and I think Clemson has been overall impressive, not as impressive. I
Yeah,
agree.
they're still the #5 team in the country. The only reason they're up there is because of like the Ohio State effect, where everybody's high on them before the season starts, and
I think they're more talented than Ohio State. I'll put it on the record. I think they have more talent across the board. They didn't really show it on.
Yeah, Ohio State's going to lose this week, and they're still be in the top 10 just because of the Ohio State effect.
I can agree with that. And I think we should end it on that is, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you do, this weekend or going forward for the rest of your life, don't fall prey to the Ohio State effect. They're not good. They're just decent.
Just because someone tells you that the girl you're getting set up with is the one for you, it doesn't mean that she is until you actually meet her.
I'm going to leave it on that. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week.
Ba-ba-ba-dum,